Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today we are making a Valentine mesh wreath. I'm starting with this Valentine shape or this heart-shaped wreath form. I picked it up at Walmart. I show it closer in a few minutes so you'll be able to see what it looks like, what the tag looks like so you can find one. Now the mesh I'm using today, I'm using 3 different colors. They're all 10-inch wide. This particular one is from Hobby Lobby. It is 10 by 30, I think. And then I also use a black mesh that I just had in my stash. It is from a floral supply store in Montgomery, one that I shop at quite often. And it's the same width. I don't think it's the same length. It might be a little bit longer than that first one, but that was in my stash, so I'm using it. And then I had this white roll of mesh, 10 inches wide, just in my stash, and it's from Walmart. So you can use mesh from anywhere. You don't have to buy it all at the same time. It doesn't have to match. It just can coordinate. Now, I had 2 rolls of that red, but I ended up not using it. I only needed the black, red, and white, 1 roll of each. I also picked up some ribbon. Now, I'm using 3 different ribbons. I like to work in odd numbers. Ideally, I would have had 3 different widths of ribbon as well, but I couldn't find one I liked in another width. So I just went ahead and got 2 that were the same width and then 1 that was smaller. Those, by the way, are 1.5 inch on that check and then 2 inches on the other ones. The big thing about the ribbon is you want to make sure it is wired edged. I'm going to be using chenille stems or pipe cleaners today to put this together, and I just happen to have this multi-pack in my stash, so I'm using it. Not spending a whole lot of money on this one. It's a stash buster. This really is a stash buster wreath too, by the way, because it's kind of a junk wreath or a tangle wreath. That's what I'm kind of calling it. So the Y wreath, there it is up close. It's a 16-inch heart wreath, again from Walmart. Now I'm going to use this rotary cutter. This is one that was sent to me from the folks at Evergreen Art Supply. It's pretty neat. I had not used it before today, and it's kind of got a safety on it where you have to push the blade out, and then it can't cut your hand that way because the blade is like protected from your hand. And it also has a little safety button on it. So I think it's pretty cool. And I got to tell you something. It's super sharp. It cut through this mesh really, really well. I was pretty happy with it. So I've laid out a cutting mat. This is an old one that I like to use for this kind of thing. And I'm rolling out all 3 of the meshes at the same time, stacked on top of each other. This saves a lot of time. And I'm cutting them 10 inches wide. I'm basically making squares because the wreath is going to be like a ruffle wreath. So I'm making squares of 10-inch wide mesh. Now I end up cutting as many as I can get with that white roll. The white roll ended up being shorter than the red or the black, so I cut as many as I could get, which ended up being about 17, maybe 18 stacks like this. So I had some black and red left over, but I used every bit of the white. So I just went through and cut all of these at 10 by 10. Pretty easy. Now the ribbon, I decided I wanted to cut it a little bit bigger. I want it to be a little tossily, a little messy. So I'm cutting it at 12 inches wide. So here what I'm doing is I'm stacking all of these pieces up, and notice I'm pushing them off the table. I have a Rubbermaid container on the floor, and so I drop those rolls down into that container so I can just pull them up off the table over and over and not have to reset these every time I cut it. So here I have them stacked up. I'm going to cut through at 12 inches. So these are 2 inches longer than my squares. And then you'll see I'll just pull the next one up. And because they're in that container, they don't roll all over the floor. They don't go anywhere. They just stay on the floor so I can, or stay on the bottom so I can just pull them and cut. I think that's super easy. So using the mat again, cutting at 12 inches. Now I didn't use the rotary this time because this was wired ribbon and I didn't want to dull that blade. So I used my snips. Now, while you're at it, you want to dovetail all of your ribbon pieces. Do this now, saves you time in the future. So I'm going to dovetail these by just folding the ribbon in half. Then I'm going to fold the wired edges together and cut from the fold to the point. And that will get you a really cute dovetail look. And you want to do that to all of the ribbons. And like I said, go ahead and do that now. Of course, I would go through and cut all of my ribbon and then go through and do all my dovetails and then stack them all up. So you kind of do it assembly line. But I'm literally doing every piece the same way. And just fold them and dovetail them. So now I've got all the ribbons cut, and I used every bit of the roll of the check, but I had a little bit left over on the other 2 rolls. I just used all the red one. So now, ruffle wreath. What does that mean? Here's where I'm going to show you. I'm separating those pieces, and I'm going to start with one piece at a time. and I've got my chenille stem ready because I want to be able to twist that together when I get done. So this white piece I'm going to start with, I want to lay it down with the curled side facing the table. It makes it a little easier. And you're just going to go to the middle of that ribbon and pleat with your fingers. The big important thing is that you make sure you do this with the finished edges of the ribbon facing out. You're ruffling from the raw edge. So see how the finished edges are on the outside? That's what you want. So I just push them together. It's so easy. This is such an easy, quick wreath. It's not everybody's taste. This wreath, when you see it finished, everybody's not going to love it. But I think it's cute, and I love kind of the little disheveled look it has. Now here's where we're really going to cheat this thing. To save time, I decided to try this. I'm going to go ahead and add my ribbon at this point. So I'm just pinching one of the ribbons in the middle and putting it on top of my mesh ruffle. This is not how you traditionally add ribbon to a wreath. You do that normally after you put all your mesh on. You come back and add your ribbon. But I thought, I'm just going to try this and see how it looks. Again, if you don't like it at the end, you can do it the traditional way. But I thought, hey, it's kind of a time saver. So I'm going to twist that together, and I'm basically making these little bunches, these mesh and ribbon bunches. I think I've done this kind of before in a wreath, like the twisty loop wreath. I think I did something similar to this, but I just thought, let's just see how this works. So there's one of them. And then that will just get attached to the wreath form. But before I start attaching to the wreath form, I decide that I want to make all of my little bundles. See, I like to work in like assembly line. I like to get one thing done and then the next. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and keep making these pieces. Now you may decide you want to mix these colors up. Like here I'm starting with the black. This one ends up being the same because I do black, then red and white. But if you want to mix your colors up, you can. And I did that somewhat where I like started with, white and then red. Just mix them up if you want to. You just see that fancy footwork there, slinging that thing out. You'll end up doing that a lot. So check out this sling. You grab it in the middle and you sling it down. That's how I do it. And it works. Notice that little piece hanging off the side? You're going to get stuff like that. It's no worry. Just trim it off when you're done. This mesh likes to kind of do that. Not too bad though, because you're leaving the finished edge on the outside. Okay, now to the ribbon. And I'm alternating ribbons each time. So every time I make a little twist of ribbon, a twist of mesh, I add a different ribbon. So this time I'm doing the polka dot with the red gingham. And some of them ended up not having any of the red gingham. Some of them are just chevron and polka dot. And I'm okay with that because in the finished product, it really doesn't matter. And let me tell you something. Go through your stash. If you have stashes of mesh and ribbon, just find stuff that coordinates and try this. And call it your tangle wreath because I think it is so cute when it's finished. It looks very tangly to me. Now I'm using full chenille stems, and the reason for that, I'm not cutting my chenille stems down because I want to have plenty of room to attach this to my wreath form. I don't want to have to fight it. So see, there's 3 bundles, and I'm going to make all the rest of them off camera. Now it's time to attach it to the wreath. So using that full chenille stem, like I said, I left the whole piece to make this easy. Then I'm going to twist this on, and I sometimes will take the wreath and do it like that before I get too full on the wreath because I can, and just twist it to make it easier. But that's it. There's the first one. Now I'm going to add the second one. Now, if you did your mesh with different colors in different places, you might want to add, see how this one ends in black? Then you might want to make sure this one starts with a different color and this one starts with red. I don't think in the end that's as big a deal, but you might want to think about it. To me, what's the biggest deal in the end is making sure you're alternating your ribbons. Just keep an eye on, I don't want to put 2 chevrons together. I don't want to put 2 polka dots together. And if it happens somewhere here and there, it's not a big deal, but try not to have like a series of all chevron, a series of all polka dots. So there's the first 2 on, and I'm telling you, looks like a mess. That's what these these mesh wreaths do. By the way, I get that question a lot because back in the day, it was called geomesh way back when, and now it's just mesh, and some people call it deco mesh. But it's all the same stuff, so don't be confused by that. So I'm just going to continue running around and putting these guys on. I am going to also start a little music and let you guys listen and watch as I go. So there you go, guys. It is the easiest thing to do. You just put those twists on. And does it not look like a tangle? That's why I call it the tangle wreath. I think it is super cute. And it may not be for every season or every occasion, but for Valentine's Day, it just reminds me of Valentine's Day. And it's perfect for your front door or inside your house or wherever you want it. Now you might want to fidget with some of your ribbons. They're wired edge so you can make sure everything's facing where you can see it. And especially once you hang it up, you might want to do that. So I'm going to show you it here in a picture where I hung it outside, and it's really, really cute. I just love it. I have it on the front door of the cottage, and I think it works perfect. Super easy, super simple. You will put this one together in no time. I'm going to link here to some of my older mesh Valentine videos. I think those might help if you're looking for some inspiration. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Talk to you again real soon. Bye-bye.